Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com. This is episode 5 of the video series where I'm going over all the plugins by Topaz Labs. In this episode, we're going to do Topaz Glow. Before I do, let me state that I have no affiliation with Topaz and they're not paying me to do these videos. Also, if you don't mind, I'd like to just talk about one thing real quick. If you're starting out in photography, if you're new to photography, you'll find that plugins, such as all these great plugins by Topaz Labs or Nick plugins, all of them, they're very powerful tools and you could do some great things with your images. But too often, I see a newer photographer, or maybe a lazy photographer sometimes, take really a crappy image and they run it through a filter or they run it through a plugin and they think they have an Ansel Adams work of art. And really, you're using the plugin as a crutch when you do that. You're stunting your growth as a photographer. So I would encourage you to not, if you're new to photography, is to not buy a plugin right away. Um, just really learn photography. Learn about light, the qualities of light. Learn about basic composition, advanced composition. Learn about your camera inside out, how it works, all the different functions, all the menu settings, everything about your camera. And really go out and take pictures. Take a lot of pictures. Don't be in front of your computer playing around with a plugin. You're really stunting your growth as a photographer, and it's the lazy way to do it. So I just had to get that off my chest. So I apologize. I put my soapbox away. Now let's talk about a plugin, Topaz Glow. Um, I'm going to be using Topaz Glow as a plugin in Lightroom. Those of you that watch my previous videos, you know that these plugins work with Photoshop, Photoshop Elements, Aperture, a bunch of different programs. Topaz Glow is unique in that it will also work as a standalone product, so you don't need to run it as a plugin. You don't need to own Lightroom or Photoshop or any of those. It will work all by itself. Now, in this case, I am going to run it as a plugin in Lightroom. And typically how I will do that is I will just right click on the image and a little menu pops up and I go down to Edit In and we're going to go down to Topaz Glow. Now, we're going to do three images today and they're TIFF files. I already converted my raw files to TIFF files to save time. So I'm going to edit the original file. If you shoot JPEG, I encourage you to edit a copy. If you shoot RAW, you have to make a copy because the Topaz plugins don't edit RAW files. So the copy will be a TIFF file. But again, if you shoot JPEG, make a copy and edit the copy because if whatever you do in Topaz plugin, in this case Glow, is going to be permanent. You won't be able to get your original image back once you apply the plugin to the image. So make sure you apply the plugin to a copy. So we're going to edit the original in this case because I do have the original raw file. Now, one thing that Topaz Glow does, like all the other Topaz plugins, they have sticky controls, they call it. So whatever settings I did or whatever whatever um, processing I did to my image prior, in my prior session, in this case in Topaz Glow, will get applied to the next image I load into Topaz Glow. So you could see that this image of the bird um, has a preset added to it already. I don't like that. I wish it just loaded the original image and let me mess around with the presets. But that's beside the point. I just wanted to make you aware of that. Now, we'll take a brief tour of the workspace in Topaz Glow. And those of you that watched episode 3, where I did Topaz Impression, it's pretty much the same workspace. Over here in the top left-hand corner, if I hover over there, this uh, lever or this slider comes up and I could zoom in. As soon as I zoom in, this preview box opens with a loop view and I could move this little box around and go to a specific part of the image and look at the image very closely. Now to get rid of that, I could just click on this minus sign here or I could zoom back out and it will go away. Now to zoom in and out, if you have a PC and you have a mouse with that center click wheel, you could zoom in and out with that wheel. If you have a Mac like I do and you have a Magic Mouse like I do, you could just drag your finger on the Magic Mouse to zoom in and out. So you don't have to go up here and use the slider. Now, if you want to see the original image, you could click right here and there's the original image. Click again and there is the processed image. You could also just hold the left mouse button in and you'll get the original. Let go and you get the processed. Hold the space bar in and you'll get the original. Let go, you get the processed. And you could also see the original and the processed image side by side. Click right here and you'll get this separator bar and you could move it around and you could see mostly processed or mostly original or any combination in there. You could do it right there, click right there, and we'll get a vertical view of this bar if you so choose. If you don't need to move a bar around, you just click this icon and we have the original to the left, the processed to the right. Click the one right next to it and we have the original on top with the processed on the bottom. Now I'd say 99% of the time I just work on the original or the processed image in my workspace like this. So I click right here. Now down here in the lower left hand panel we have a strength slider and blend mode. Those of you that are familiar with Photoshop, the blend modes in Topaz Glow are identical and they work identically to how those blend modes work in Photoshop. There's just not as many. You have normal, multiply screen, overlay, soft light, and hard light, and they do the exact same thing. The strength slider works identically to the opacity slider in Photoshop. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Photoshop, don't worry about it. We're going to come back to these and I'm going to show you how these work. Now, like almost all Topaz plugins, they have a lot of presets, and the presets are kept in collections. And in Topaz Glow on the right at the top, we have all our preset collections. Right now we're in fur and feathers, which fits good because we have a feathered bird. We have featured presets, which are, I guess, the most popular presets that are in this program. My presets, you could create your own, and I'm going to show you how to do that. We have all the presets in a collection, and all the collections are just folders that hold the presets. These neon look and so on. Now we're not going to go through them all right now. Excuse me. We're going to go to fur and feathers. Now, the way I encourage you to work with Topaz Glow is the same way I encourage you to work with Topaz Impression. Pick a preset that is close to something you like and then tweak it. And I'm going to show you how to do that here. Now, obviously, this, as I mentioned, is a bird with feathers. So we're going to stay in the fur and feathers. And we're going to try fur and feathers 1 preset. And I don't like that one as much as the fur and feathers 2 preset, which was applied to the image. Fur and feathers 3. Now, you'll see when I click on a preset that a status bar goes across, and it will take a second for the preset to render in the view window here. So just be patient. We're going to go through. So far I don't see anything I like better than Fur and Feathers 2. So we're going to stay with Fur and Feathers 2. That is close to something I like. Now I want to edit it though. I want to tweak it a little bit. So we have to get to what they call the slider panel. And obviously you could click right here. There's a little icon of sliders. Or you could click right in the middle of the preset you chose. There's a slider panel right there. Now, right off the top, you're going to see there's 4 main tabs. And I really work these top to bottom. Primary glow, secondary glow, color, and finishing touches. So we go right to the primary glow, and we're greeted with right at the top, the glow type. Is it a light glow or a dark glow? And really, this will make your image look totally different to what type of glow you pick. Now you can see that this specific preset has a primary glow being light, and we're going to leave it at that. Now, we're just going to go through the sliders very quickly. The glow strength is exactly what it says, and I turn it up, you'll see it's going to get very, very strong. As you can see, now this glow is very overbearing. I prefer, on this image at least, to have it lower. So we're going to turn that down a little bit. The effect sharpness, how sharp is the actual glow? The more you go to the right, the sharper it will look. The more you go to the left, the less detail you'll get. It'll be a little more blurrier. It'll give you more of a painterly effect if you move the sharpness to the left. And it gives you a little bit more of a neon glow effect as you move the sharpness to the right. So right now I'm going to leave it right about there. Electrify, I don't care for the effect. This will really give you that neon look, and it's a strong look. If you go very high, it's going to be quite overbearing. And we'll turn it down a little bit. You can see it's still very strong. So typically, I don't like the Electrify look that much. So I keep that one relatively low. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll mess around with glow strength and glow sharpness and bounce between these two sliders to get it, pretty much what I like. Then I'll usually bring Electrify down. That's just my own personal taste. Simplify details. Right now you could see that in the bird's feather there's a lot of detail. You could see that we could see each individual strand of feather, and there's a lot of glow on those individual strands. When I move simplify details to the right, it just kind of blurs it out. And you could see that it's just made it blurrier. It's kind of increased contrast too a little bit. So in this case, because it is a bird with some detail feathers, I would rather have simplify details low. Edge color. Now right now all these edges have a glow to them. The glow is pretty much white or off-white. If you want to change the glow color, they call it edge color, is move this to the right. And what I found, it's a very interesting slider. Um, it will either change the glow to a complement of the color that is there, or it will change it to a different shade of the color that is there. For example, if you have blue and you have this glow, if this is turned all the way down and you have blue, and you're going to have a white glow around this blue. Sometimes when you turn it up, you'll get an orange glow, which is the complementary color to blue. Other times, and it depends where you move it along its path too, you'll get not orange, but you'll get a different shade of blue. So it's a pretty interesting slider, and I encourage you to just, on your image, spend a little time with this slider and move it around quite a bit. You'll get quite unique effects moving it all around. Detail strength is really how strong is this whole effect. And as I move it to the right, you'll see that this other slider appeared. Here, let me show you. Or if I move it to the left, it would appear also. So you could see. And now you can see it's going to really get really crazy looking. And if you look closely, you can see all these little swirls up in here. That's what the detail size comes in. As I move that to the right, this will get like bigger chunks divided out of swirls, as you could see. So typically, I like a more subtle effect, so I don't want it too strong. So I'll keep detail strong or detail strength usually around 0, and when it's at 0, that other slider doesn't come into play at all. Now brightness controls a very unique brightness control. If you move it to the right, you're going to increase the brightness, and move it to the left, it's going to decrease brightness. But what is interesting about it, here I'll move it to the right, and you can see it's going to appear that the entire image got brighter. But when I move it to the left, this is where the magic comes in. If you're using a light glow type, you'll see that as I move it down, the glow doesn't proportionately move down with the rest of the image. So you're making the actual part of the image that is really an image darker, but the glow is still staying a little brighter, and it's not proportional then to the rest of the image. There is a brightness control we're going to do later, which makes the entire image lighter or brighter. But this is why this brightness control is kind of unique. And I like it. With the light glow type, I turn it down a little bit. It will make the image darker, but it keeps the glow bright. And I like that. If you're using a dark glow type, if you turn brightness up, that dark glow type will stay dark, although it's not as effective, I found, as this combination of light glow type, brightness down. All right, just keep that in mind. Contrast is a normal contrast slider. You move it to the right, you'll add more contrast. And you move it to the left, you have less. And typically I don't like a flat image, so I don't like less contrast, so I'm going to move it to the right. Now the saturation slider is an interesting slider too. It's similar to brightness, whereas if you move it to the right, it's going to add saturation across everything, including the glow. The glow is going to get more saturated, but it's not proportional. So if I move this all the way down, it's going to give me a black and white image, except for the glow. You're going to see that there's still some color in the glow. So that's very interesting. There is a saturation slider that we'll come to in a little bit that will take color completely out, even of the glow. So that's the saturation slider under primary glow. Now line rotation and glow spread are odd sliders to me. You can see right now that the glow just follows along the lines perfectly. If I change the rotation of it, it tends to not follow the lines as much. It kind of so it will effectively look kind of more blurry or thicker or heavier. And that's what the glow spread also. If I move that to the right, it will make the glow wider. You'll see. So it looks like a heavier effect. Usually I leave those alone. I might tweak them a little bit just to see what I get. But usually in this case too, I still want this detail of the feathers to come out. So I really don't want to blur it in any way by moving the rotation one way or the other. So I'll leave that more in the middle like that. So that is all the sliders in the primary glow. Now we have secondary glow. This is the secondary glow to the image, and we have the same exact sliders. And again, we have glow strength, but in the glow type, in this case, this preset had the dark glow type for the secondary glow. So I'll turn glow strength way up, and you'll see a lot of black lines now, because that is the dark glow. So now again, if I went to this brightness control and turn brightness up, it's going to effectively make the image brighter, but it won't make the black lines here as proportionately lighter. But it's not as strong an effect as when you're doing it with the light glow type and turning brightness down. All right, I hope that's clear. So I don't like that look, so I just was doing that to demo the strength. So we're going to turn that down. And sharpness, again, you could make it very sharp looking. This is the actual glow sharp. Or you could bring the sharpness down and make it a little more softer look, more painterly look. But I want to make it really edgy, so we're going to do that. And electrify is identical. Now all these sliders do the exact same thing as the primary glow sliders. So I don't think there's a lot of, I don't think there's a need for me to go through them completely. Simplify details is going to make it basically a little more blurry, a little more painterly like. And the brightness contrast all do the same thing. Line rotation, glow, spread, exactly the same as the primary glow. So we now adjusted two different types of glow. We had a light glow type as a primary glow, and we had a dark glow type as the secondary glow. Now, color. This is a typical HSL color panel that's similar to what's in Lightroom, and that's hue, saturation, and luminance, although in Topaz they call it lightness. It's the same exact thing. And you have all these swatches up here. The first swatch is overall, the entire image. So I could change the hues of all the colors in the entire image by moving this slider around, if you want. I'm going to leave it in the middle. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it already, to reset a slider, you could just double click on the name of the slider. Saturation, I could increase the saturation overall, or I go down here and I could decrease, and I could take the saturation out of everything. Remember I mentioned that there's another saturation slider that will take the saturation completely out. That's it. And similarly with the overall lightness, you could bring everything down or up, make it more glowing. Well, we'll leave that in the middle. Typically what I would do is I come up here and I pick colors. Like I'll come in here with blue. I don't often change the hue, but I might increase the saturation in this case and decrease the lightness so the blues get a little darker. I don't think I want to do anything with yellow, but with green maybe I'll increase saturation and bring lightness down like that. So that's it. So that is the color tab. Next is finishing touches. Now, this next slider is the strangest slider, and I read everything I could read on it, and it really doesn't make any sense if you ask me. Um, Topaz calls it a vignette for the effect, but it's not really a vignette. Everyone knows what a vignette is, and this has a vignette in it, and we'll get to that in a minute. But uh, pretty much as soon as you move it, this other slider appears with a coverage transition, which is a slider for a vignette. But as you move it around, especially on this image, you see subtle changes. Now you're seeing it get darker in the middle of the bird's face. As I move it to the left, it gets lighter. The transition. Um, it's really an odd group of sliders. These two. Uh, It's really unpredictable. So you really have to come in here and you have to You have to just try it and see if it does something that you like and move it around. In this case, I don't think it did anything I like, so we're going to not use that slider at all. So as I mentioned, it's difficult when a slider isn't predictable. I mean, with the brightness control, you know what's going to happen when you move it to the right or move it to the left, or the contrast control. This one, you're really not sure. It's just hit and miss. The smudge slider, again, is going to just make things a little more blurry as I move it to the right. And as I specified on this specific image, I prefer not having that blur, uh, but I don't want it like that either. So about like that's good. Sharpness overall sharpness of the image. So you move it to the right, it's going to get sharper. You move it to the left, it's going to get softer. And you can see when it's all the way down, it's pretty soft. And this other slider disappeared. That's radius. And the best way to explain that, right now, this bird, I have all these fine feathers, these fine veins in each feather. So I want a small radius because I want to sharpen each fine little vein. If I move the radius to the right, you're going to see that it just like kind of clumps things together in groups, and really just then the sharpening is occurring to bigger chunks of feather, for lack of a better term. So we're going to keep radius relatively low, not that low. So again, this is just a slider. You're going to have to move around a little bit and uh, find an area that you like it. And actually, I don't like anything I'm doing right now. It's hard to actually uh, do a video, explain what I'm doing, and make it look good. So I hope you'll forgive me. Now the vignette size is a typical vignette. Now this is a normal vignette. As soon as I move this, you'll see other stuff appear below, and we have the vignette size. So we could have a big, strong vignette. The vignette shade, it defaults to a black vignette. As you move this to the right, it's going to move and turn gray. And if you move it to the far right, it'll be white. So you could change your vignette shade with that slider. We're going to leave it at a black right now. Transition is how much feathered do you want the vignette. So if I go to the left, you can see it's going to give me a very sharp transition. And if I go to the right, it's much softer, more feathered. So bring vignette size down like that. Now this little donut on this grid, you move this around, you could move the center of your vignette to a different part of the image, so that if you have your subject off-centered, you could actually center the vignette over them by moving that around. Now in this case, I'm going to leave it right in the middle. And that's it. That is all the adjustments for Topaz Glow. Now let's say I like this, which I don't, but let's say I did, and I want to save this as a preset, a user preset. Go right here to this plus sign, click there, this little box comes up, and we're going to give it a name. And I can't help, but I have to call it Tony's Ugly Preset. Okay? Now, tags, basically, which collection are we going to save this in? Let's save it in graphic and fur and feathers, and click Save. Now, it also saved it in my user collection also, my presets. There it is. And then we go down to graphic, and we go down to the bottom, and there's Tony's ugly preset right there. And then if we go to fur and feathers, and at the bottom, there it is there. So that's how you create and save a preset. Now, I really don't like this preset. I want to delete it. As I pick it, I have to pick it, but go back to it. There's a little trash can right here, and I click there, and I could delete that ugly preset. You're only able, as far as I know, yes, you're only able to delete your own preset. All right. So I just clicked on preset, so I lost all that work I did, but that's fine. I didn't really like that at all. I do like fur and feathers too, so we're just going to click OK. Now what it will do is it will save this file, and it's going to load itself in Lightroom. You can see it loading. It just takes a second. And there's our effect. You could see as I zoom in that we have this kind of, I don't know, featherly, painterly look on the bird. All right, let's do another one, and a little quicker this time just to show you some different effects that you could get with um, this program. You know, one thing I've noticed too is it seems to work great for macros and for animals, especially birds and animals that have fur, not necessarily a goldfish, all right? But animals that have fur and feathers, it seems to work very well. And for macros, flowers, it works great. We're going to do a butterfly in a minute, stuff like that. I really have not got pleasing results doing a landscape or anything like that yet. So maybe you can, experiment with it and you'll get uh, some really nice landscapes. I've yet to get one. Nothing I liked at least. So we're going to go up here to edit in. And we're going to go to Topaz Glow. And we're going to edit the original. Again, now I encourage you to edit a copy. As I mentioned, I have the original raw files that are processed. So I'm not hurting myself by editing um, this, image. Now, this original image, I should say, this original TIFF. All right, now it's sticky, so it opened up. I did fur and feathers last time, so it opened up in fur and feathers. Let's just try some ones down here. I like the fur and feathers category because we have Mr. Lion. This was a lion at the Buffalo Zoo that just recently died, from what I read in the paper. Less than a month or two ago. I think he was in his 20s. I don't know offhand how long lions live, um, but it was a good day. He was just posing for me. Let's see here. Let's go with this one. The reason why I kind of like the effect, but it's a little bright. So this is typically what you would do. You would pick something that you like, but you'd find something that you want to change slightly. And as I mentioned, it's just a little bright. So we're going to come in here. And I don't think I'm going to adjust the primary glow or the secondary glow, anything like that. We're going to go right to the overall color, and we're going to go to lightness, and we're just going to bring that down a little bit. Now, one thing too I'm noticing now as I'm turning it down, my original raw file, I must have put a vignette on it, and you can see how the sides are getting dark. I would recommend that you process your images in Lightroom if you're using Lightroom or whatever program you're using. Process them right to the point where you're going to send them over to Topaz Glow, but do not put a vignette on them. Use Topaz Glow to add the vignette, or after you save your work from Topaz Glow and it goes back in Lightroom, add the vignette afterwards, because you might like an effect, but it might make the corners, the vignette too dark, and it's going to be very difficult for you to lighten up those corners because the original file had a vignette in it. All right, so that's my recommendation on that. So we're still going to bring overall brightness down a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. One thing, I'm going to go back up to primary glow and I'm going to go to contrast. I'm going to add a little more contrast to Mr. Lion. So this is what I'm saying. You pick a preset, you come in and you tweak these. Now I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so it's kind of a nice look. I'm going to leave it the way it is. I'm not going to mess with the vignette here. And I'm just going to click OK. And it will save this. in um, in Lightroom, just like that. Now, we're going to do this butterfly. We're just going to right click. You could right click on the thumbnail down here in the film strip or on the image itself, or you could go up to Photo, Edit In, and we're going to go down to Topaz Glow. Now this one, I'm going to do two different things here real quick. We're going to edit the original again because I made a TIFF file from the raw file. And I'm just going to get an effect that is okay, right? All right, so it has, you know, like I said, these sticky controls. Let's get out of fur and feathers for a minute. Let's go to liquid designs. I want to get a relatively heavy effect, like squiggly lines. Okay, right here. Um, I wanted to show you strength in blend mode. Um, Really, all you got to do is go to blend mode and try different things. If multiply will make it darker, but you could see the effect in there. All right, that's kind of a cool look. Screen's going to make it lighter. Overlay will make it the lighter lighter and the darker darker, so it's going to have more contrast. It's kind of cool. But you could see the effect there, right? Soft light and hard light. I don't like hard light, but um, let's see overlay again. No. Well, let's go back to normal. Now this is the original like preset that I did that's normal. Now the strength, remember I mentioned that this is like the opacity slider in Photoshop. Those of you that are familiar with Photoshop know that there's a layers panel. There's no layers panel in Topaz Glow, but it's as though there were one. And our original image is the bottom layer. And the top layer is this processed image. And as we move this strength slider down, it's as though we're adjusting the opacity of our top layer. So we're allowing more and more of the original layer to come through. If I turn this all the way down, we have all original image. So the top layer, which is our process layer, is totally invisible now. It's just the original image is shining through. So you could use this to dial down or to blend in the effect you chose with the original image, and it comes in really handy. Now one note, I right now note that I have, let's say, strength at 40%. Let's, for the sake of argument, put on a multiply blend mode, okay? 40% strength, multiply blend mode. As soon as I pick a different preset, this will jump back up to normal and 100%. So be aware of that, that these change every time you choose a different preset. Now what I wanted to do with this image is to get a neon preset because they're pretty different. As you could see, there's Blazing Neon 1. Blazing Neon 2 should be coming up in a second. And I noticed these take longer to render. Just must use more computer power. Brilliant Fibers. And to save time, we're just going to go up to Blazing Neon 1 because I pretty much like that. And let's adjust it a little bit. And with this one, I think the glow is fine, the primary and secondary glow. Let's let's adjust the colors a little bit. Let's come with the blue and increase blue saturation and bring blue brightness down a little bit. Let's go with purples. That. Let's do red. And we're going to go red saturation, red lightness. I didn't like that. Let's go make it brighter maybe. There we go, something like that. Very glowing. Finishing touches, I don't think we're going to do anything with that. Let's go back up to the primary glow and let's increase saturation a little bit. Yeah, that is did not rendering. Yeah, it didn't do much. All right, well, let's call it a day. I'd say that gives you an idea of the different things you could do with Topaz Glow. So we're going to click OK. By the way, if I didn't like this at all, just click cancel and it will do that. And nothing happens. We're back with the original image. So we didn't apply it to our butterfly. So that's it. That's the ins and outs of Topaz Glow. And I'd like to thank everyone that watches my videos. One thing I forgot to mention in all the previous videos except the first one. In the description below, there's a link there that if you click, if you're interested in buying any of the Topaz product, if you click on that, you'll get a $20 credit. Now, uh, I get a $20 credit too if you click that, but it doesn't matter to me because I own every Topaz product there is. So it's not going to do me any good. But what I found out, although I didn't call Topaz directly yet to find out if I could do this, but I've read online that people that have had these credits were able to gift it to other people. So what I'm thinking is if I ever did attain enough where I could buy like the complete package, even though I already own it, I could have a contest on my website and gift the complete package to the winner of the contest. So that's what I plan on doing if I ever accumulated enough credits to buy the complete package. If not, we could do modules. You know, we could do Topaz Glow or something like that. So, but the best thing is you save $20 too by clicking that link. And again, I have no affiliation with Topaz. Outside of that, it doesn't do me any good to do these videos. They're not paying me or anything at all. They've never even sent me an email acknowledging that I do these or anything. So just want to get that out there so everyone understands where why I do these videos. Um, Please, everyone, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share my videos. You're welcome. Put them on your website. Just don't reconstitute them. Just make sure they're the links from YouTube. You're welcome to do that. Thank you, everyone. I really do appreciate it. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.